Hey guys, thanks for joining me for another Dissidia Final Fantasy Opera Omni video. Today I have got my upload here for the 6 Warrior quest. This is for Area 3. This is for the Celes drop. So I did do an attempt on this during my live stream. I was not successful because I didn't really study the fight. Like, I knew a little bit about the fight, but I didn't look at it a ton going into it. So of course they had an instant kill attack that I didn't avoid because I didn't understand how it worked at that time, right? So I took some time, read the fight a little bit more, went in again. Went in with a slightly different team comp. So as you can see here, what makes this fight tough is they start off in force time. So immediately they start off with a big force attack. And if you don't have mitigation, they are going to punish you, right? So having Celes with her HP damage reduction, Brave damage reduction, having Cater with dodge, Gladio doing his tanking, that really helps. So I opened up with a very tanky team comp here to just get through this first force time. So that's kind of the goal here, is get through this force time they start with some tanking. And then you can basically force charge and go from there, right? So the part that threw me off in my first run, because my first run was going fine. I got him down to like 30%. I was definitely good on turn count. Like, I was going to get it done. But it's the enemy on the left that is the problem. So the enemy on the left has two thresholds where he will get a red aura. And you get a message that says, like, do HP damage before he takes a turn or else. It doesn't really say much other than that. It's kind of vague, right? Well, when you read the enemy description, what it is he has a threshold where, like, when he goes in that red aura, you have to get him below 60% before he takes another turn, or he auto-kills you. And then he does it again, and you have to get him below 20% before he takes a turn, otherwise he auto-kills you. So what happened in my first run was I just naturally got through that first threshold without even knowing what was going on. And then at about 30%, that red aura went up, and I let him get a turn, and he auto-killed me. So that's basically why my run during... So if you see my live stream, because my live stream is posted, you can watch that run if you want to. But what I did on that run was, my plan was, I was just going to use Celes and do like a tanking comp, right? And just do off-turn and let them take a lot of turns. Well, that kind of doesn't work when you get into that phase where you have to do enough damage to him, right? Because you can't let him take a turn, otherwise he'll auto-kill you. So the strat that I did here that was slightly different was I decided to, basically on my bench, I've got Tifa chilling back there. So my plan here is basically, what I've done was I've gotten through the force time, right? I'm just doing some basic setup here with this defense comp, but essentially what I'm going to do is, for my force time, I'm going to swap into Tifa and do a Tifa setup, and I'm just going to target that left enemy and just get them the heck out of here, so I don't have to deal with those red auras. So that's the strat I did. No, I did do an attempt on this with Rinoa, and that worked out fine. But since she's doing AoE damage, like, she does more damage overall than Tifa to both the enemies, but, like, I really wanted to burst the left enemy down. And Rinoa's not as good as, like, bursting down just one enemy as Tifa is. So I felt like Tifa was slightly the better play here, so that's what I ended up going with in this run, right? So now what we're doing is we're just starting, we're at about 50% force gauge, so now we're doing, like, our kind of force setup. So we bring in Selphie, we set them up with launching. I do have to watch their, like, buff debuff count, because I don't want to, like, overfill them, right? Now we're going to bring in Lunafreya. We're going to start doing some charging and stuff here with Lunafreya to kind of set that up. So energy heal here, just to charge up a little bit. And basically that's kind of what we're doing. And I intentionally set this up. I'm finding that I like Lunafreya the most in that far right slot, because then when she LD, she's giving out Heavy Prayer, and I've been liking Heavy Prayer more than Quick Prayer. I like Quick Prayer better on, like, the action skill that you don't get as often, because really I only want Quick Prayer when I want to set up my force character, right? But otherwise, for the thing I'm reapplying, I like that Heavy Prayer, because you do a lot of damage with that Heavy Prayer on, right? So yeah, we're going to go into LD, which is going to give Heavy Prayer to Cater and Celes here. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just doing this to basically give Lunafreya some free turns, to do some more charging. But eventually what I'm going to do is, in Selphie's slot, I believe I'm going to bring Tifa in. And I think I leave Celes out, because Celes' mitigation is just really important. The other thing that's very important about this fight, too, is that you have either, like, a HP silence or a freeze debuff on the enemy. So you can see I have Cater's 3-turn freeze debuff on them. This is very important for when they go into, like, their force time, because when they take all their free actions or free turns, it actually doesn't tick down their debuffs. So as long as you have an HP silence or a freeze applied to them, like, you can get through that whole thing just fine. So that's another part that really helps get through that first part, is having some type of freeze or HP silence on there. So, like, Arciela, Kefka, like, characters like that can really help with the HP silence. Otherwise, Setzer and Kater are the two main freeze characters, right? So there are a lot of different ways you can deal with these guys, but like, you know, if you don't know what you're doing coming into this, you're going to load up the fight and just instantly die. So you basically, no matter what, like you have to come in and be able to survive that first hit. And then your first action has to be something that can freeze or HP silence. Otherwise, you're in danger of getting killed because they're just going to keep taking a bunch of turns, right? Unless you've got that good tanking or mitigation. So we're hopping in here. Getting the burst effect there with Locke popping out, which is really, really awesome, right? Just to get that on. So I figured having Celes out would be kind of nice. So I wanted to do something more, like with a little bit more off-turn with Tifa. But I decided to just play it safe and just have Celes out there. Because what I found out when I did my Renoa run, like I tried like Cisne, right? And Cisne like was just brave damaging ones all around. So I don't know. I'm still a little confused on these guys for like how I'm like, I feel like sometimes I'm doing brave damage and sometimes I'm not. But I feel like my characters are all ice enchanted, so I don't understand why like sometimes I feel like I do damage and sometimes I don't. It's weird. And I wasn't like dual enchanting, because I know if they have lockouts, if you get dual enchanted, then you know the lockout will override it. But like here, Tifa's doing good damage, so that's all I'm happy about right there, is Tifa's doing good damage. And basically we're about to hit our 100% force gauge here, right? So the idea is we just get into a Tifa force and we just burst that left enemy down. And literally my goal here is to get this done in 2 force times. Basically force time 1, kill the left enemy, force time 2, kill the right enemy. And just use 2 Tifa forces. And that's really how we get it done here. Honestly, the 2 really scary things with this fight to figure out, right? It's you just have to get through that first wave of force time. And then you just have to have a way to deal with the red ore on the left enemy. So you just have to have really heavy damage to be able to like burst that enemy down. Or have a way to like delay or push back so that you have plenty of time to get him down to that threshold, right? That's pretty much what you want to do. But see right there, like Shiva hitting ones, and that's literally an ice attack. So if somebody in comments wants to let me know why like I'm sometimes hitting for ones, like, I don't know. I never figured it out. I could maybe read the boss info more, but we get it done because even with like doing lockout damage of like only hitting ones, we still like do so many brave gains it doesn't matter, right? But yeah, it's absolutely perplexing to me because there's, well, and maybe it's something with their thresholds, maybe, I don't know. But yeah, just randomly hitting ones, even though I'm like very clearly doing ice damage, which ice is what they want to hit. It even says like weakness damage, and I'm just tapping for once, so I don't know. But we get through it and it's fine. We're able to power through. That's why, like, if you have really busted, powerful team comps, like elemental lockout doesn't even matter sometimes. I showed this with one of my defense comps in another video, where we ran Gao, even though like Earth was locked out and he enchanted the whole party for Earth. I didn't care. It worked out. We had so much brave gaining, and Gao just helped raise the force gauge so much in that team that it worked out just fine. And I think we killed him in 1 force time in that video. I don't remember what the run was that we did, but it was a very aggressive fight, which those defense comps work well in, right? The other reason why I opted to go the Tifa route here, which we're about to pop off with Tifa here, you know, Celes is great, like her force is great, but to me, these enemies aren't aggressive enough to run the defense comp effectively. Like, they are very aggressive during their own force, right? But that's going to be for a very limited amount of time, and it's not enough to, like, get your gauge up, like, to insane levels, right? So, like, when I, did my showcase on the Ultimisia stage, those are the type of stages where, like, the defense comps are awesome. So that's going to be, like, my go-to showcase stage for defense team comps. So in the future, as they release really aggressive fights, like, Celes will be a really, really fun FR to run. And the thing is like, I've got so many of these defense FRs. Like, if you've already got Core, like, Core, Minwu, Celes, Ferris, like, all their FRs are very similar in, like, how they operate. So you really don't need all of them, right? I have all of them, but the average player doesn't need them, and especially if the game isn't going to throw more content at us to need them, right? They're not going to lock out characters. Like, yeah, you can just run the same team every time. You know, with some exceptions, you might have to swap out. But here we go. So we're hopping into Force. So as you can see here, and I have seen people on Twitter, like, struggling with this fight, right? Like, it is a tough fight. But you can see here, like, they're starting to do some aggressive stuff, but they still have that freeze debuff from the very, very beginning. So if we can just get them to hold on to that freeze debuff, and we've got, like, Celes for mitigation, like, we really have nothing to worry about. So my plan here is to, I believe we go into Tifa's burst at, I believe right now, I think we do. I'm pretty sure we do it right now. So I really like going into burst at 8 turns of force. And the reason why is you're going to be like finishing up and hitting her burst attack when it's at 2, so it's going to be a super high percent. When you come out of it, you get 1 more turn of force, and then I like popping this brother summon, because it's literally going to do 10 to 15 mil, depending on how big your gauge is, AoE, which is really huge damage, right? So now it's just going to launch city, doing all the crazy damage, all that. So we did hit the right enemy there, and I believe it was just because I wanted to get a break on him, but now we just target the left enemy. And we just go crazy, and we're just going to burst this guy down and absolutely annihilate him, right? So we go LD, which is a big attack, and then that's going to give us our HP plus attack, which is really busted with Tifa, right? Absolutely love Tifa. Tifa's such a good character. And you know what? Even Vaughn, like with him being elemental locked out, I don't know, Vaughn might be able to do okay here too. I don't know if those Brave gains are going to be enough, but he's got the Brave floor. But Tifa's definitely like probably one of the better choices if you're going to go a more offensive route, which I have here. The thing with 6-man is you've got so many options, right? Like you can bring your defense comp and an offensive comp all at the same time and kind of go between the two, which is kind of what I did here, right? We started in defense comp to survive. Now we've completely swapped over to the offensive comp with the Luna Freya Tifa setup. Celes is just a consistent to be out there and absorb and give us the reductions, which is really, really nice. But you literally could set up 2 different comps. And that's why, the reason why this 6-man fight is harder and why 6-man in general is harder, they load in a ton of mechanics into these fights because they know you've got so many characters. So they want you to have to use a lot of stuff, right? Which is really, really cool that they do that. And I think part of the reason why they give that left enemy that red aura and you've got to burst them down is I think literally you almost could maybe solo this with Celes, if not for that, because the fight would go a lot slower, right? But Celes, like, she would build up a crazy force time, because if you're only running one character, well, then the enemies have no choice but to be aggressive and take a ton of turns. And Celes literally is going to be invincible. She's going to absorb everything. So the only thing that would kill Celes in a solo fight is, say, that auto kill thing, because Celes isn't going to be able to burst him down fast enough because he's going to get turns very quickly. So I think part of the reason they did that was so that you can't just solo this with Celes. I think some Celes solo runs could be fun, and that is something I would maybe try in a video if I get extra time. Maybe this weekend, I don't know, things are crazy. So I'm getting this video out on Thursday, right? So 2 days after my stream. I really wanted to get out yesterday, but yesterday is Yu-Gi-Oh! Day. Yu-Gi-Oh! Went late, and I actually won the tournament this week. I ran the Ishizu tier limits, and just, it was insane how much that deck dominated. Like, there's a reason why that's like the top tier deck right now. And the funny thing is like, I'm still learning the deck, and I know I misplayed a bunch and played it suboptimally, and still just like won the tournament. So that's how you know a deck is too busted. So anyways, that's Yu-Gi-Oh! Talk. Some of you probably have no idea what I'm talking about, but if you're a Yu-Gi-Oh! Player, shout out to the Yu-Gi-Oh! Players out there, right? Also, shout out to NFL fans. I got my Vikings hat today. I wore it for the stream because I was pretty hyped about the Vikings' last win versus the Bills. Crazy game. One of the best games I've ever seen in my life. Absolutely insane. But you can see here, so we're basically ending Tifa's force here. And this is what I like to be. I like to be at 1 turn left. And then we pop that old summon. We did a big, huge chunk of damage. Now we're going to do this EX, and I think we're about going to finish this guy off. Yeah, so we finish off the left enemy. Now, realistically, I probably could have done that last attack on the right enemy and done a big chunk damage. That's like 18 mil, right? I did not need 18 mil for that left guy. But darn if I didn't want to be absolutely positive I didn't get that guy out of there, because he's pretty annoying. So I got that guy out of there. Now, we're basically just against the one enemy, so literally all this fight is now is just force charging into another round and just doing another round of Tifa, and that's basically game over at that point, right? Now, I can understand, you know, I've got a pretty darn deep roster, so I can definitely understand if players are struggling with this fight. Like, it can be very hard, right? So if you need help with this fight, feel free to hop into my Discord. I post it in the description of all my videos. Hop in there. Myself, and there's actually been quite a few content creators that have joined my Discord, which is super awesome, right? I'm just super appreciative of everybody, and just the fact that I'm getting to the point where I'm at, where like I think I'm being recognized more in the community. People know me. I'm kind of like a face in the DFFOO community now, which is super awesome. So that like other content creators are jumping in, and I've you know done some collabs, and getting people into my Discord is awesome. So like Mark and Mino are in there, and like Cross 13 and Blind Eye, and you know, there's a lot of these people in the community, right? Like people you hear about on the podcast all the time are in there, so it's fun. There's really nice group of people, a lot of very smart people. I'll be honest, a lot of these other content creators, they're a lot smarter and better at the game than me. So if you want to get some advice, you know, even if I don't answer you, like getting advice from them is very good advice, right? The one thing I always say, if you're familiar with my channel, right, I don't like try to pretend. Like I will tell you this, I'm not the best DFFOO player out there. I'm not the most intelligent DFFOO player out there. I'm just someone that's very passionate about the game and I really like it. And I enjoy taking these complex characters and like trying to simplify them for everybody else to use. And that's the big thing I do on my channel. We make those simple character guides. And even something like this, there's probably ways to optimize this fight way better than what I get it done here. And that's great, right? For those players that like to do that. But for me, I just try to think of the way I play the game is I look at my box and I say, what team is going to get this done the easiest? And that's the way I like to play the game. Give me the path of least resistance. And once again, I make a lot of mistakes in my videos. They're never perfect, right? But we get there and we get the general idea of what's going on. And I'm just glad y'all are enjoying the game with me here as we go through. And we got this guy down to 68%. So I'm thinking at this point, like, you know, we basically took down that left enemy during a force time. Now, Tifa's next force won't be as powerful because we won't have her burst phase. But what I love about Tifa that is so good is that you essentially can use her like getting 2 burst phases, because all you do is on the second round, which you're going to see here in this video, you get her force time up, and then you can just use her free skill use attack over and over and over and spam it, and just let her take the entire force time. So even though she is out of a burst, she can essentially still steal the whole force time, which is awesome. The other thing with Tifa is other characters still get really high percentages, so it's not bad to attack with other characters. I just know Tifa is going to give me more damage. And the reason why you really want to get into this next force quickly is because Tifa now just refreshed her burst effect, and you want to have her full burst effect for the entire force, because you're getting the water kick somersault combos, which really helps intensify the damage, right? But look at this guy. Like, this guy still has the original 3-turn freeze debuff from the very beginning when Cater is out. So I've pretty much denied their turns and just like spammed through this so quick and just basically taking control of the fight, right? So yeah, basically I'm just going to go through and battle cry my way through and just get into this force. Now I think I mistimed it there where I should have done another force charger move before. So I had to use another Tifa move here before I could get in. And yeah, and you see it's still at 96. So I'm like, oh, dang it, I got to get more. So I'm like, oh yeah, that's right, it's 6-man. I can just bring in like Selfie or Cater quick, and we can just force charge quick and then swap them back out. So that's the beautiful thing about 6-man, is you can literally set up the whole fight to where your force character is ready, but then your force gauge isn't, and you just swap them out for a force charger, and as long as they take an action, you can just swap right back. So you just do instant turns to charge, and then here's Tifa right back, getting into the force time here. And then yeah, basically all I do is I get to another Tifa turn, and then we just battle cry the rest of the way through. And that just about takes care of this guy, because Tifa's damage is so satisfying, by the way. Especially like when she's got heavy prayer on, and then she herself does like an extra add-on. You just see so many HP dumps. And it's so satisfying to see that. Okay? So now, yeah, once in a while at these thresholds, you can see he jumps in with an attack. And so that's why it's important to just have a freeze or an HP disable on there, so that they can't just like screw you over like this. Because you can see, even though it wasn't his turn, he jumped in and did like an attack. But when they do those steal turn attacks, you see none of the debuffs actually go down. So those kind of threshold attacks don't actually count as them taking a turn. So it doesn't affect their debuff. So you could put on like just a 2-turn HP attack disable, and you could keep that going like the whole fight, and their interrupt attacks won't actually lower that count. So that's really, really nice. So you don't have to have like Cater or Setzer or whatever in the party. Most players, I would say, just do it with like a call, depending on what you want for your actual 6 characters. But yeah, as long as you have a freeze or an HP silence call, like, you're good to go, right? And RCL, I would say, is the go-to HP silence call. And for freeze, you'd probably just use like a Setzer call, right? So if you've got either of those calls, I think you're good to go. And Setzer, his freeze, you don't need as LD or anything. So like, you literally can just have like a bronze level 1 Setzer. And I think well, it can't be level 1. He's got to be, I think, level 80 to get the call. But you can have like a 0 invested Setzer and still have access to that freeze, right? I think the freeze is better if you actually have the 15 max, but you would still get at least, I think, a 2-turn freeze. If it's max, I think you get 3 turns, but you can get away with some pretty low invest calls, and it will still help you in this fight, right? So So now we're getting to the point where the enemy's getting pretty low, and it's pretty much the final stretch here. We got our gauge up to like 400%. Once again, enemy jumping in with some attacks, 0 damage. He can't Brave Gain, right? So that's just so huge, that freeze debuff. So something that I really like about Cater is she's a dodge counter. She's got the freeze debuff, right? She's got traps. Like, Cater's just, and she force charges. She's such a good character. I think it was in my, I think it was during the character guide, I was like kind of talking up Cater, and I misspoke. I said that her freeze debuff came from her EX, but it was actually her LD. So you don't get like infinite uses of it, but you've got like, what, 3 or 4 on-demand freezes, and they last for 3 turns. And you can see by this video here, you can stretch that freeze debuff out a long time, right? And then see right there, like, Tifa's hitting 1s randomly. It's like, okay, I don't think our ice enchant fell off at any point, so that part I still don't get with this fight, but it clearly didn't matter. Like, we hit 1s plenty here, and we made it through just fine. But yeah, you can see how frustrating this could be if you're just dominating the enemy and he just keeps HP killing you here. So the freeze debuff coming in clutch. I think Raijin Call would work there also, like any of that stuff. Just get some calls to nullify that out, have a tank at the beginning, and you're good to go. But now we're at 526, and this is the final blow right here. And we've got it done. So there you go, guys. That's the 6-man fight for Celes. It is a harder fight, but once you practice it and understand it, you just have to understand how to get by those 2 big hurdles. Like I said, one is just the start of the fight, getting through that immediate force time. And then the second hurdle is just that left enemy with that HP kind of garbage where he auto-kills you, right? So anyways, guys, if you need help, join my Discord. Let me know what you think of this 6-man fight. Thanks for watching. We'll catch y'all on the next one.